I call the meeting to order. Public Hospital District Number 4, King County Board of Commissioners Work Study, Wednesday, May 23rd, 2018, 6 p.m.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job.
Madam Executive Assistant, roll call, please.
President Norris, how would you like that recorded?
Is it excused?
She's absent.
Absent.
Vice President Herron,
Here.
Secretary Spikers,
Here.
Commissioner Young, here, and Commissioner Pollard.
Here.
Okay, now we move to approval of the agenda.
I make the motion to approve the agenda.
I move approval of the agenda.
I just said that.
Do I hear a second?
Gene, you got a second?
Second.
There we go.
Approval of the agenda is seconded by Commissioner Herron. Commissioner Pollard.
Who are you?
Now, do we hear public comment?
No, we need to vote
We
on
need to
that.
vote.
Oh, we need to vote. I'm so sorry.
No
Yes.
worries.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Approval of agenda has been approved. Any public comment? We move on to topics of discussion. The first one is on Washington Rural Health Collaborative. Annual report from Holly Greenwood, Executive Director.
I'm just going to, do you mind if I just jump in?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Holly, thank you so much for being here. Holly, as you see in the agenda, is the Executive Director of the Washington Rural Health Collaborative. This is, most of you know about the collaborative, but don't know all the details that goes on in the collaborative, and this is an opportunity for you to see all the benefit that comes to the hospital because of the work that we do and really the work that Holly and her staff do for all of the member hospitals. So Holly has produced an annual report, and we'll have that for you as a leave behind. But Holly has made herself available, and now this is your third presentation for member hospitals about the work done in 2017, and includes a return on investment and all the projects that we have accomplished as a collaborative.
Great. So thank you for inviting me here. I've had the opportunity to, I think, meet most of you at Chelan, and so this is my favorite time to come out and talk about the value of membership because it's really good news that I get to share with you tonight. So it's always fun to talk about that. So just as a little reminder of who we are, since I probably last had an opportunity to talk to you, is we've grown. So we're 15 now critical access hospitals here in the state of Washington. So we cover the whole state. We added 2 new members this year, Lincoln and Kittitas Valley Health in Ellensburg. And again, we're very careful when we add members. We look for members that align with the work that we're doing and that will bring value to our other members with what the work and sharing their best practices. The collaborative's been around since 2004, and we've changed quite a bit over those years. Growing from 8 to 15 is a good example of that. And our organizational structure has changed as well. When I started 5 years ago, it was me and a half-time assistant, and look at us now. We have a total of 5 staff that are there to help our members achieve the work that will help them remain sustainable in this ever-changing healthcare environment. We're a membership organization, so we are guided by a board of directors, and our board is very committed to this work, and we meet monthly to talk about what is the work that they want to achieve and how we as the staff of the collaborative can help them achieve that work. So our strength is really the collective the collective value of the members. So when you start to look at each of us individually, we're all critical access hospitals, and when you start to compare us to maybe some of the bigger hospitals in the surrounding areas, we don't tend to matter so much when we're doing joint contracts or talking to insurance companies. But when you start to look at our collective whole, then we have a lot of strength. So you can see we had almost 800,000 outpatient visits last year combined. That was just among 13 hospitals. So now with 2 additional hospitals, I'm sure we're well over that. 9,000 inpatient discharges. But we start to matter, and we start to really have a voice in the discussions at the state level and with vendors and with insurance plans. So our mission is to stimulate innovation and partnerships among our members so that we can ensure that there's sustainability today and in the future for you. And our vision is to be recognized as a significant network of partners in supporting members in achieving excellence through collaboration and innovation. So there's just so much more we can do together than what we can sometimes accomplish on our own. So in 2017, we have an annual retreat every year, and we developed a problem statement to help guide us in our work. And this was the problem statement that we developed in, so I'm just going to read it to you. The healthcare system has transformed into a highly complex, constantly changing industry. Individual rural health systems struggle to recruit the talent, support, and infrastructure needed to thrive in this ever-changing environment. As a result, individual rural hospitals are unable to maximize value, bandwidth, bottom line efficiencies, and opportunities. And it looks different in every hospital. So the problem that maybe is being faced in Newport is probably not the same problem that you guys might be facing. But there are areas that we can align together and support each other in. Any questions about that problem statement?
Why don't you say, as a result, individual rural hospitals struggle to maximize it, because I don't think it's always the case that they're unable. It's with great difficulty. So I would say substitute the word struggle to maximize value, etc. That's
a great addition. Thank you. I will give you credit for that when I use it.
You quoted?
Yeah, I'll quote you. That's a great addition. Can you make a note of that for me? Sure. Thank you. So we spent a lot of time talking about how do we continue to support our members to achieve that or to maximize that. And the collaborative has gone through quite an evolution. At the far left-hand corner, you can see where the collaborative started. We started as a network of 5 hospitals and have grown to the current 15. And a lot of the work they did at that time was sharing best practices. And I was about to say but it's not just. That's really important to be able to just share best practices. And we have these committees that they're able to share policies and procedures so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. And then we moved into grants and policies and procedures and joint contracts and spend alignment. That's where we started to really hit the sweet spot. Is doing joint contracting together. So one of the things that I'm going to show you today is the contracts that you're involved in and how you've been able to leverage that and how it saved you some additional dollars. So data analytics and payer ventures, that's what we believe. We know that as we move further into this new world of healthcare transformation, that quality is important. Quality is here to stay. Whether or not we're going to have value-based contracts in our future, that remains to be seen. But we know that quality is going to be here to stay, and there's more and more emphasis on reporting of quality. So we know we need to get really good at that, and we want to be able to use that information to drive our contracts with our payers.
Did you mention when this all started, WHRC?
2004.
2004.
And then there's then the opportunity for doing more shared services and shared standards. So again, driving that operational excellence among our membership. So that's kind of where we've seen the evolution. And again, these are some of the high-level opportunities that we believe that if we do this work together, that we'll be able to help our hospitals maintain their independence through being interdependent upon each other.
In addition to grants, policies, and procedures, I'm focusing really on grants, for your organization, do you flag for individual hospitals unique grants that they might qualify for? Are you on the lookout for those things for each individual hospital?
I certainly would say that if I see a grant, and I know that you guys are telemedicine, although everybody in the collaborative is, but if that was something that was just unique to Snoqualmie, and I saw a federal grant come through, I would forward it on to probably Dr. Whitcock or Tom. So I do look for those, but it's that opportunities. So today I'm really here to talk about our how we did in 2017, and as Tom referenced, we have this annual report that we do every year, and hopefully you saw it last year, and Valerie will pass that out at the end, but this really follows that, and so I really encourage you. We're pretty proud of the work that we do, and it'll go into a little deeper level, but as I said, every year we set our strategic goals, or at least review them and see if they're still the right ones, and add to them. Our strategic goals for 2017, which they are our goals for the next couple years, were to maintain a strong financially viable organizational structure, and that was really referring to the collaborative, because if the collaborative wasn't strong and financially viable, we weren't going to be able to help our members do the work that needs to be done. Our second goal was around preparing member hospitals for healthcare reform and value-based care transformation. So we wanted to ensure that none of our hospitals were excluded from a value-based contract due to lack of readiness. Now I know here at Snoqualmie, you guys have already embraced that. You're part of a clinically integrated network, so you're well on the way to value-based care transformation. Some of our hospitals are still easing into it a little bit slower than you guys are. Number 3 is supporting member sustainability and independence through collective action. And again, a lot of that is around joint contracting for services, and I'll be definitely diving more into that a little later. And then expanding joint contracting opportunities. So we definitely had seen early on that the value of a lab contract, the very first contract that we did collectively together 3 years ago, netted our hospitals almost $800,000. In savings. Those are direct savings, and what they would have paid if they had just an individual contract. So our accomplishments for 2017, and these aren't all of them, these are just some high-level accomplishments, but so under goal number 1, which was maintaining a strong financially viable organization structure, is that I developed, the board pushed me to develop, suggested a sustainability plan to make sure that we would be looking, that we weren't raising membership dues. And since I've been with the collaborative, we haven't raised membership dues from the day that I started. It's been the same $15,000.
How much is it?
$15,000.
For each hospital?
Yes.
Everybody pays the same?
Yes.
Is that per year or per?
Yes. Yes, per year. I'm open for donations, though. If you get so excited. I'm kidding.
We do too.
You do too. Okay.
We are too.
So our sustainability plan. So we generated. We put together a sustainability plan that the board approved, and in the first year we developed an additional $101,000 in additional revenue. We secured. We have an interim plan until we continue to fully secure all the revenue that we're going to need. We secured an additional contracts of almost $100,000 in independent contracts. So that's where we will use some of the expertise that we have within the collaborative to support other work outside of our members. And we then successfully recruited 2 new members who joined in 2018. So that, of course, also helps our sustainability. Goal number 2, preparing our member hospitals for healthcare reform. 85% of our members have a plan or actively working on value-based care transformation. So it's not 100%, which is what we were hoping for, but it's 85%. That's pretty good. 69% of our members have at least one value-based contract in place. And so what we've really looked at these last year is to look for opportunities for our members to do a value-based contract that had no risk, upside only, just so that they can learn what does that mean to start reporting quality measures. And then we launched this Operational Excellence Task Force that developed a draft framework to support member hospitals with a focus on data and analytics. So we knew that once we started to get this data in, we needed to be able to analyze it and figure out what do we need to do with it and actually put it into action. So our goal number 3 was support member sustainability and independence through collective action, a program that we launched that was actually started out of the CFO committee that I think, and at that time, you were the chair of that committee. We was a delegated credentialing program, and we went live with that in January of 2018. We actually contract actually back to Snoqualmie for some support in this area. But this is a great program. What this means is that payers will delegate the authority to the collaborative, that as you have a new provider, that we can actually get them enrolled with the payer much quicker than normally. Normally it takes about 90 days, and a lot of time that results in lost revenue. And I remember, Snoqualmie, you actually did a assessment of how many dollars you guys were losing. Do you remember what that total?
No, but it was a lot.
It was a lot of money.
It got your attention real quick.
So this has not been done before. Bigger systems do this. Tertiary hospitals, that Providence, they have a delegated credentialing program. So we had conversations with payers. They said if you build it, we would look to approve you for doing this work. So we're pretty excited about this. Under Dr. Witkoff's leadership, and I think you know that she serves also as the collaborative CMO, we contract back for Snoqualmie for some of her time. She's helped us develop a telemedicine network. So we're actually, phase 1 is going to be pulmonology, and we're actually getting ready to launch that first pilot. So we're pretty excited about that as well. So again, it's using a preferred partnership with Evergreen Health, and so I'm sure there'll be more to come on that as we fully develop that. And then continue to track members' return on investment. So one of the things that when I came with the collaborative, it was really important to me that I was able to show our members a return on their investment, and that is in hard dollars. So we always work with the CFO committee every year to ensure that how we're creating the assessment makes sense to them, but it's hard dollars. So it's money that you're actually saving based on contracts or money that's being returned to you. It's not for things like that are valuable, like sitting in a committee, which is valuable, but it's truly hard dollars. And so for our average in 2017 is that we had $8 to $1 return on investment, so a total over time of $2.3 million in direct savings for our hospitals. So that makes me pretty excited when I get to say that. And we're going to dive down deeper just into Snoqualmie's return on investment and show you how you guys look in that in 2017. Our goal number 4 is to continue to expand our joint contracting opportunities. So in 2017, we did 3 preferred pricing contracts, saving members almost $500,000 with just those 3 contracts. We implemented 2 tools to help us do a better job of identifying where the need is across all of our members. These tools will we can look at each of our hospitals and see how are they spending their money, so we can identify contracts based on the greatest need in our hospitals and really drill down into what the need is. And then we're working on an alignment of group purchasing organizations among our member with a focus on primary, secondary alignment. So again, leveraging a GPO also to continue to maximize additional contracts that we may not negotiate ourselves. Any questions about any of these accomplishments?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions, Holly. You have 15 members now. How many smaller hospitals are in the state that you foresee maybe trying to approach that could benefit?
So our bylaws state that in order to be a member, you have to be a critical access hospital. In the state of Washington, there are 39 critical access hospitals, but there are not 39 critical access hospitals that would align with the work that we're doing. So there's a lot of difference in critical access hospital. You've seen one critical access hospital, you've seen one. And so our members have been very purposeful about seeking new members of people that will add to the benefit of the collaborative. I actually don't see us growing from much more, at least in the next couple of years. We want to make sure that we're keeping it manageable, that we're able to, the work that we've outlined, the board has outlined for the staff to do, that we're able to be successful in that. And the more members you add, the harder it is to add that specialty touch for each of our hospitals. So, so at this point, I think we'll probably be stable for a couple of years, but it's definitely by invitation only, and the board has to approve it. So it's a pretty purposeful process.
Yeah, and of the members that are critical access and not, say, compatible with the organization's goals, would they be like members of big organizations for the most part, perhaps?
Maybe some of them. I probably should have added that there is another network like us that is located on most of the hospitals are on the east side of the mountains. And they have 20 hospitals that are in their network, and we work closely together. We partner when it makes sense to partner, and but there are other places that some of them might also participate, but another place could be through an affiliation as well.
Thank you.
Under goal 2, it says 69% of members have at least one value-based contract in place. Give me an example of a value-based contract that 69% would have in place.
Yeah, so I'm going to try hard to remember which one Snoqualmie has.
Mayor Group.
I was going to say Mayor Group.
You were right.
A Mayor Group is one, and is that the only? I thought you had another one.
We have others through EHM.
Yes. So a Mayor Group's a good example, but and some of them aren't necessarily contracts that the collaborative or the PhD board negotiated, but that they've negotiated either on their own or as part of, like, you guys are part of the EHM network.
And that organization that we're contracted with, what do they do for us, Steve? What is it, the Marywood, or what is it?
Oh, a Mayor Group, that contract?
Group.
So
what
that's
does
it.
a Group do for us?
So Mayor Group is
Go ahead.
Mayor Group is one of the Medicaid managed care contracts. So it's a payer contract that, so depending on which Medicaid programs that you contract with, it would have.
We need to contract with someone.
Yes.
They're an insurer. Think of
They're
them
an
as an
insurer.
insurer, providing
Sorry.
health insurance.
Yes.
So we're contracting with them for value-based payments. So we can
Value-based
get our feet
payments.
wet. And
That
know what we're
makes
doing.
it a value-based contract. I
Yeah.
got it. Thank you.
And what makes it a little different from a traditional contract is there tends to be something tied, some additional incentive tied to quality measures. And in the Mayor Group contract, as an example, it's upside only. So in that particular, you guys are getting paid exactly the same as what you would have gotten paid before, but you have an opportunity to not only get more through a shared savings if you are able to reduce or to improve your quality scores, but also we negotiated a PMPM, a per member per month, which gives you some infrastructure dollars to help develop some of the capacity that you might need in order to support those contracts.
Well, there's other savings in this. I mean, it's the auditors, we combine, we get a better rate with our auditor.
Oh, so I think you're talking about what we've done with our vendor contract.
Yeah, vendor contracts.
Vendor contracts,
So
supplies.
Holly's going to talk about that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Holly had asked me on the delegated credentialing, the amount of revenue that we will gain once that's in place. About $400,000 a year. I looked it up.
Oh.
I have a sheet on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did the analysis years ago.
So maybe it's helpful for you to think goal 2 is really a lot of it is around insurance contracts, like Steve said. Goal number 4 is more vendor type contracts and service contracts. Okay. So now what you've all been waiting for is how did Snoqualmie do? How did you guys do? So you can't look ahead. That's cheating.
Gene,
We have to watch him all the time.
So Kwame did really well. You guys achieved a 7-to-1 return on investment. And the way you do that is based on the number of contracts that you guys are participating in. And as you can see, the number of contracts that you're participating in quite a few of the contracts that we have. So the savings are off to the right-hand side for each of the contracts that you participated in. And so just with the medical malpractice contract, which is one of our this is a great example, one that really showed the power of the collaborative, because that was the first contract that it was 13 members at that time participated in. We had huge savings, so $73,000 for just Snoqualmie. And this is at a time when we didn't think that we could lower those prices anymore, because those prices had dropped because there was some fear that hospitals were going to come together and do a captive. And so your vendors had already dropped those prices, so we didn't expect to see as much saving as we did. So pretty exciting that we actually achieved $73,000. And on top of that, there's additional dollars depending on how we do with that, dollars that can be returned directly to you based on how how collectively we're able to manage that risk. So even more dollars potentially. These dollars are figured out annually for you, and so they will change over time. In 2018, already you guys have signed up for 2 contracts, LabCorp being another big contract. LabCorp right now, you're looking at your estimated savings will be right around $32,000, and you already were with LabCorp. But what we were able to do was to further reduce the cost of each of the pricing of each of the lab services. So even though you already had this contract, we were able to realize bigger savings. Same with HRG. Again, you guys have a contract already in place, but because we had more members that we were able to jump on, we were able to save you an additional 1%. I'm not sure exactly what that will translate in your savings, but we'll figure it out at the end of the year. And next year when I'm back here, I'll be able to tell you what that total will be.
What HRG does for us.
In this case, it's your self-pay billing that they do on your behalf.
Collection.
Self-pay collections.
Self-pay collections.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
thank you.
What's the acronym?
Healthcare Resource Group.
Home Resource Group?
Healthcare
Oh,
Resource
healthcare
Group.
resource.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I actually kind of spoke about all of the spoke about a couple of these already. So the Parker Smith and Feek is our consolidated broker, and again, so we are continuing to work with him to look for additional opportunities. So such a fabulous opportunity around medical malpractice. This year we're looking at some additional contracts again that collectively we can do together. We have a legal master contract that have some dedicated legal services. And I know that you guys have been taking advantage of that through SKIP, and I think SKIP attends some of your board meetings. Our HRSA network grant, so last year was the 3rd year of that grant, so that's another thing that we tend to look for. We don't go after grants unless they, again, align with the work we're doing. And so it was the last year of the 3rd year grant, and that supported a lot of the value-based readiness and a lot of the spend analytics tools so that our members didn't have to pay for those things. We were able to pay for it out of the grant funds. Same with Curvo, which is a supply chain software which helps you manage your contracts to ensure that you're getting the best pricing. And I don't know, Steve, if you want to speak to it. I know you guys have actually really are using this and have found a couple that you've been able to save some additional dollars based on realizing that.
What Curvo does is it says, okay, you have this contract in place. Are you paying what you should under the contract? And it really helps us manage vendors in our materials management area.
I already spoke about Valify, so that's the one that we get the spend data across all of our hospitals. And then Compliance Line, that's a third-party hotline monitoring. Every hospital has to have this in place, and it is something that we include in our membership. Any questions about any of those highlights? Additional value-added services that we don't put a price tag on is that we do a lot of work through committees. I already spoke about the board of directors. The CFO committee is very active. They drive a lot of the joint contracting. They're our go-to to take a look at the data that we get from the Valify system to say, is this the area that we want to focus on next? We have all of these other committees that Dr. Whitkoff leads the Physician Leadership Committee. And that's where the delegated credentialing also work will happen within the Physician Leadership Committee that also exists that many of your staff already participate in. So just to give you a little glimpse of what we're looking at for 2018, our board retreat was in March, so that's where they set my direction for the upcoming year. And so some new priorities to be integrated with our goals. Our goals, again, stay the same, but what changes is the work underneath. So we're going to continue to focus on goal number 2. What we recognize is that, that while the value-based contracting, whether or not that's truly here to stay, again, the emphasis on quality is here to stay. So we're going to continue to identify value-based contracts for members that have upside risk only, or no risk, upside benefit only. We established a Washington Rural Health Network, which is a separate LLC, to serve as as a for-profit arm for us, that if we actually start to be really successful with contracts, it's a way that we as a nonprofit can return dollars to our members. We have several of our members that are currently participating in a Medicare shared savings. So we're considering developing a Washington only, or do they want to continue to partner with some of the members in Colorado? We're working on exploring and developing a strong data and analytics platform to support the members' work towards quality and operational excellence. And the last thing that we're doing is we're engaging with the Healthcare Authority on a multi-payer work to develop ideally a sustainable financing model for rural healthcare systems. So their approach is to focus on Medicare and Medicaid, which when you look in rural areas, that tends to be anywhere from 60 to 85% of the payer population. So we don't know if we'll be successful in getting a new model, but we're going to be at the table working to develop what it could look like. And hopefully we are at the table. Yes, we are at the table developing that. And we have actually created a statewide paper on behalf of all rural hospitals with core elements. And so again, this is where you'll see our strength, because we're representing so many hospitals that they're anxious to have our voice at the table and to participate in that work. So fingers crossed that we might be able to influence some good things with the Healthcare Authority. Goal 3 is to continue to work on supporting the members' sustainability and independence through collective action. So because we know that there's such an emphasis on quality, that we want to looking at developing a quality integrated network. So what does that really mean? What does that look like? And what will be the infrastructure that we can needed in order to support our hospitals? So we have a lot of work to do on that this year to identify how do we develop the infrastructure, and then how do we support our members with achieving that. So when I come back, I'm going to be able to say that collectively we have achieved some of this work, and so we have continued the collaborative evolution towards operational excellence by exploring an quality integrated network, which includes the staffing and the tools needed to support the work. So it's important that not only are we coming up with ideas, but we are figuring out how do you actually do it. So what staffing and what would the tools look like? We establish parameters for shared commitment and a shared voice to assure sustainability of rural healthcare. So the fact that we know that sometimes you'll hear that the quality in rural healthcare is not as good as some of the bigger systems. We don't believe that's true. So how do we together create common messaging around the excellence work that's happening in rural healthcare? Continue to align our policies and procedures needed to drive shared opportunities. So that's a good example of that is the delegated payer credentialing and the telemedicine program. So we're looking forward to coming back to telling you that we've received the approval. We have to have that program in place for 1 year before we can even ask for the payers to delegate that authority to us. So a lot of work has to happen in between that, and also with the telemedicine program and starting to pilot that with pulmonology, and then the ability to expand it to other types of needed services. And utilizing data to drive clinical and financial standards, which will drive joint contracting. So we'll identify and execute 2 high-spend joint contracting contracts on behalf of our members, and with the goal of continuing to increase the ROI on behalf of all of our members. Any questions? So again, this continuing to ensure that our members can be independent through interdependence is our kind of our motto. And I love this statement that came out of our board retreat, that together we are better than big. So that together we add up to be just as good as everybody else. So continue to voice that and develop the messaging around that is important to us. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
No more questions? Great. Well, thank you again for the opportunity. I love coming to talk about this work.
Thank you. Thank you for providing us with copies of the slides.
Very, very good. So, well, thank you, and I look forward to coming back next year with better results even.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate that you came a bit of a distance, and now we're going to let you get back on the road so you get home.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Holly.
Where are you coming from?
Our office is in McCleary, Washington, and I live in Union, Washington. Where that is.
South.
Yeah.
Shelton and all that.
Yeah, but see, this worked out just great because by now the traffic's died down.
No, Shelton.
Oh, no.
Wrong Union.
Yeah,
Wrong Union.
not Union Gap.
It's
Yeah,
by
by Alderbrook, up on Hood
Yeah.
Canal. So it'll be a lovely drive to go home. So
Thank you again,
Thank you.
Holly.
yeah, no, thank you. Anytime.
Now we move on to affiliation update from our CEO, Tom Parker.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
Thank you, Val. I'm going to give you an update tonight about the work that's occurred since we last had an update, and then give you a picture of what's coming up next. And we've got a little bit of work to do tonight. I need to pick your brains on some points here as we get through this presentation. First of all, I want to just update you. You've seen this slide before. A little bit of change here. In the first time I showed this slide, this box was the only one that was grayed out. We talked about moving into our Plan B and identifying some potential partners. And then we've gone into this stage here, identifying goals and compatible organizations. And last time we talked about which organizations looked like they matched up well with our criteria. And we reviewed those goals, and that's on a subsequent slide, where we identified some organizations that we thought would be a good fit for us. We established some criteria. Brand was really at the top of the list. And I want to pause here on brand just to remind us all about what we talked about, in that when we saw the market study, we recognized that there was a significant amount of outmigration. People who live here in the Valley who seek services that we provide, and they're going outside of the Valley for that. And we believed that it was important for us to seek affiliation with an organization that would bring brand recognition and help with the redirection of some of that outmigration. That really is one of the foundational concepts about affiliation for us, because it not only allows for long-term viability for us, but also helps a deal to look advantageous from the perspective of a potential affiliate partner. If they can bring more business to an organization that they're operating, it makes it viable in the near term as well. We wanted geography to work. We wanted to continue we wanted to have an organization that had both strength and a willingness to make commitments to the hospital. We wanted to have a commitment to our scope of services, as well as a commitment to a continuing role for the board and for the district in community wellness and population health. And then we wanted there to be an alignment around our mission and our values, and of course on strategies as well, and those 4 pathways that we've identified are viability, quality relationships, and growth. These were the criteria that we were looking at to make sure that we were aligned, and then I threw in the other considerations because there's always something else that you didn't think about, but really that's the criteria. We looked at 5 organizations originally. I'm in discussions and have had good conversations now with 3 organizations who align very strong around those criteria that we all established. Overlake, UW Medicine, and Valley Medical Center all have really strong brands. All of them have fairly good financial health. Geographically, they're aligned. One of the things that I heard from Evergreen was, despite the fact that we share borders, the patient flow doesn't go. The patient flow would actually go past 2 other existing hospitals for referrals to go back and forth between our 2 facilities. I heard also a similar message from Multicare that they are, of course, looking to expand their network, but we're just a little bit outside right now of their strategic plan for expanding their geographic scope. And those were some of the other criteria. We went through this last time. So let's talk about where we're at right now. We're in this box right here, developing the scope of the affiliation. What would this affiliation look like? And that's what I want to talk about tonight. So I'm going to drill down on this step here with us this evening. And again, this is just bringing over this step, development of our scope. What are the high-level deal points that we want to express to a affiliate partner, potential affiliate partner, and then get us working toward having an organization that we would recommend for a letter of intent. So what are some of the initial steps? In each one of the discussions that I've had with the 3 potential parties, they have all expressed interest in taking a look at our 2017 audited financials. So the 2017 audited financials also require, in order for that to be done, we need to have our cost report. So I've let them know that that was a step in the process. We need to then, of course, complete those financials and present them to the Finance Committee and the board. So the auditors will be at the Finance Committee. Is that on the 30th? 31st, excuse me. That's on the 31st. So the Finance Committee on the 31st. The auditors will be reporting on the audited 2017 financials. And then the auditors will also be to the board meeting in June to give the full report on 2017. The organizations want to see that. And then Steve and I are also working on a package of material for them. We're assembling all of this information into a Dropbox so that they can see that right away as soon as the audited financials are presented to the board. So they're the financials plus the 2018 year-to-date. How are we doing this year? The projection that I Bailey did when we sold the bonds, our debt schedule and the covenants, how are we doing on that? And then also the market study, which we all saw, which shows the potential for redirection of the out-migrating care, migrating out of the valley. Yes?
Excuse me, what's the bottom line with 2017? Have you heard?
I don't want to preclude, but since you asked, it's going to be about a loss of about 275.
275,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're which is less than 1% margin, and so we're feeling really good about the 2017 results because that was a change from a loss of what was 2.6?
2.6.
2.6 million in the year prior.
To what do you just attribute the loss?
I'd rather answer a different question. That is, what would you attribute the difference between 2016 and 17? And that was a lot.
That's
That was
part of my question.
cost reduction.
Right.
Yeah, cost reduction. And now, as we go into 2018, as you know, when we reduce, and Commissioner Spikers has talked about this in his reports, when we reduce our costs, some of that we end up having to pay back to Medicare. So we had a sizable payback to Medicare because of the cost reductions. As we go into 2018, though, we continue with that lower cost profile, and what we've done in this year is we've put in programs that add revenue that don't require us to pay anything back to Medicare. And that's why we have a positive budget for net income for 2018, because we can maintain that cost profile. We actually got in the cost report a Medicare daily rate that's their proposed daily rate is more than what we're actually booking right now. So that's good news. It means that we don't have to restate any of our first 4 months of financials. So those that net income that we've logged so far this year, that's solid. And so that's part of the information that we're providing to the affiliate partners is a very strong financial position. And going into 2018, the changes that we're making don't require any Medicare payback. That's all revenue that we get to keep.
We'll hear about those changes.
I'll just mention them right now. They're the 340B program and the rural health clinic status for our 2 clinics.
One thing.
Is this a one-way initial steps, or is it too early for us to do the same request for the future financial affiliated partner?
Emma, would you say that one more
These
time for me?
This is the high-level deal points.
Yes.
The potential, the three level, the three
Right.
member.
The 3 potential organizations,
Right.
yes.
Is requesting from us.
No, this is what, out of the work that we have done,
Yes.
I'm sorry, that is on the next slide. What this is this is what they have expressed to us as what they would like to see from us. These are not deal points. These are not the deal points.
Oh, okay.
This is just a step that we're at right now, and that is providing them with a picture of the organization based on the financials, based on the market study. That will help them to understand us better and will inform them about what deal points they'll feel comfortable with.
So it's one way initial step.
This is an initial step. This is all information that we're going to provide to the 3, and then later on, next slide actually, we'll talk about some of the deal points that came out of our strategy work that we did together. David, you had a question.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and we missed, I know our budget was for about 230,000.
Yeah.
We were supposed to, and we missed it by basically $500,000.
Right.
And to me, that's quite a difference for it. That's basically what $500,000 out of 35 million, whatever that percentage is.
Not much.
$500,000 out of our
Well,
revenue
gross revenue is about
is
30.
40.
About 38, about 38 million.
So
38, okay.
Let's say 38.
it's not 1%. It's a little more than that.
If you look at the variance.
Yeah, the variance, what we were supposed to have is 250,000 or 230,000, 223.
Yeah.
And we ended up with 275, so that's about $500,000 difference. How much is it per patient day? Are we off? Did we not project on that?
Well, like I said, the per patient day that we're booking now is less than what we're going to actually be receiving. So if you look
at $3,000, right?
No, it's got to be about $2,750 or something like that. I don't see how we could.
Huh? What?
No,
Well, we were at 29,
right.
maybe 28.
So
We were at 2850,
Yeah,
and we
so-
had the cost report done, and the new calculated Medicare daily rate is 22,905.
Why is it 2,905 when we're getting more, we became 30 to 35% more efficient since we opened. That's how much less we're getting per patient.
We're actually getting,
day.
they're saying we should be getting more than we were getting last year. We're booking 2,850. Got that one? Medicare says we should be getting 2,905. So about $50 more a day.
Well, how does that happen when we have to pay them back? I don't understand. Weren't we, I thought we were paying back.
Yeah,
we knew that we were getting paid too much, so we reserved in our contractual allowance enough to cover almost all of the payback. So, in fact, all of the payback, except for about $500,000 of it. So we missed it by a little bit. And you asked me the 500,000 versus 38 million is about 1.3%. So, we did.
Now it's suspect about how much our projected budget is.
Not really, David, because
it's actually very confirming for us.
It's actually very confirming.
Yeah.
Because what it says is that we based our budget on accruing $2,850 per Medicare day. Medicare now has, the cost report says, and Medicare will confirm that we should be getting $2,900. We should actually be getting more than we are putting on our financial
statements.
statements.
For 2018. 2017, what did we budget our
2000 about, we budgeted about 2,800, and we were getting paid way more, and we knew that. We were getting paid over $3,000 a day, and Medicare had not done a test on it. So,
but if we had budgeted 2,800, and we actually, our cost is actually 2,900.
Yeah. So.
Didn't we set aside all that money?
We did set aside a lot.
We set aside a little bit less than we should have.
Yeah.
And and the only way you could, we adjusted as much as we could. The only way you could get a final number, and you don't have to believe me on this, but was to do the final.
You got to do the final cost report.
Which we did.
I understand that. I don't understand how we ended up. If we budgeted for 223. With withholding at 2,800, well, a net 223,000,
right?
And withholding 2,850.
I think what wasn't.
So how did we end up on the wrong end of this?
Because
you see what I'm saying?
A couple of things happened. Okay, we grew our Medicare patient days substantially, and that's
the other variable.
That's the other variable.
Yeah.
And that says you're getting overpaid. And we said we know we're getting overpaid. We don't know exactly how much. We had a test done. We adjusted our booking, but we were getting even more overpaid because we continued to grow
Medicare volume,
Medicare patient
inpatient volume
throughout the year.
No, I totally understand.
Okay.
That, but if we withheld and we budgeted at 2,850, and we actually should be getting 2,900. It doesn't make sense to me that we ended up in a negative column on this.
Well, we had a test done, and we said, okay, we think...
That was the mid-year, right?
That was mid-year we had a test done. And that actually came out a little higher than 2,900. We booked that. And then our Medicare days continued to grow, and we said, okay... We don't know what it's going to be. And we adjusted it down for this year. We booked about 3,000 a day last year. We said we want to be conservative when we're doing 2018, so we're going to take it down to 2,850. And we don't have to restate this year, 2018.
Okay, but
2019,
2017,
we were booking
3,000.
And so we were booking a little more than we should have. But we didn't know that till we had the cost report.
Yeah.
We had an estimate that said, yeah, you're booking, you're getting overpaid. So we put it in
the contractuals.
We didn't put quite enough in.
Not enough.
Yeah.
So it is the 2,900, David, that you are referring to.
per patient day.
Per patient, you know,
And if you-
2,800.
If you look at our bottom line in comparison to a couple of things, David, are you listening?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Eide Bailey, when they did our projections in 2015, said that in 2017 we would lose 382,000. We lost 277. We beat those projections. We hired Eide Bailey at the end of 2016 because we missed our bond covenants.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at what their projections were with the changes we made, those came out to actually a loss of $1,028,000. We substantially improved over that because we just continued to do benchmarking. We continued to manage the revenue side in a number of ways. One was the inpatient mix. The other was the how we handle and where we treat Medicaid patients. The other was we put in financial or insurance verification software. All those decreased our contractual allowance for the commercial side. So we beat both Eide Bailey projections. Now, you know, did I want a positive bottom line? Yeah. We did a reserve analysis, intellectual honesty. Said, okay, what should they be? We came out with a number, and we had the CPAs reviewed that closely. Said, yeah, you're right. This is your AR, your contractual allowance. They agreed with it, but we wanted to be accurate on it, beyond anything else.
We did it payer by payer.
Payer by payer, financial class by financial class.
We didn't want to kid ourselves.
Yeah.
Probably the closest we've come to being what we projected, but still off in reality about our budget by half.
But if you look at 16, we lost 2.6 million. We improved that result by 2.4 million. You don't see that type of turnaround many times.
Oh, I know.
And it wasn't easy. It wasn't
because
one
of
thing.
The initial costs startup in the hospital.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. 2016, we'd gone through all those initial costs. We were operating as a critical access hospital, and we had booked all the initial costs in 2015 when we moved in. So the other thing we did, and just bear with me, here I go. This is finance committee.
I think I brought this up because I thought it's quite important, and I'm sorry if I kind of interrupted things.
It's all right. It's all right.
I think because the rest of the board is not always at the finance committee to hear the questions I have.
But I was waiting to see what our cost report, how was it? Yeah,
can I say one more thing?
Whether we,
One more thing that we should factor in is in 2015, we decided, okay, how are we going to depreciate the new hospital? And you can do a straight line, which is, just 1/30th of it. We said, no, we're going to, in essence, accelerate the depreciation because of cost-based reimbursement, get a little bit more money in the door quicker. And in 2017, we booked $753,000 more in depreciation than on a straight line basis in expense.
Yep.
So that makes up for
we didn't have to accelerate that depreciation.
We could have straight lined it, and
if we had straight lined it, we would have shown a bottom line for 2017. But because we accelerated that depreciation, that brings more cash into the organization, of course, because it has a favorable effect on the Medicare rate.
And accelerated depreciation is a financial tool that even the for-profits use, because what it does for them is it decreases their tax liability. For us, it decreased our reimbursement from Medicare.
Or increased.
Increased, I'm sorry.
Yeah, increased our Medicare.
Increased. It's all legal. It's all upfront. It's all viable financial management, a viable financial management tool. So,
I guess the bottom line here, which all of this relates to, is how do we look to an affiliation partner? And I'm kind of concerned because I really thought that we would end up in a black situation for this year.
We kept telling you we didn't know.
It's a great point, and that's why the first 4 months of the year, and I'm getting a little ahead now, of, also for the Finance Committee, will show that our variance to budget is significantly favorable. So in the month of April, we again beat projections, which means that year to date through April, our bottom line is over $500,000 better than budget. And the really good message is that the Medicare rate that we're using for this year is actually less than what Medicare will allow. And so that is the message that we're going to be giving to the affiliate partners is between 2016 and 17, we reduced our net loss by $2.4 million and got nearly to break even. Going into 2018, we've continued those cost reductions. We've held on those. We've had a good revenue in the first 4 months, and we now have other revenue generating programs such as the 340B program, putting more revenue into the organization to keep that bottom line going forward through 2018. That's the message for the affiliate partners.
It's a good message, no doubt.
Yep.
I like it. It just that I've seen where we looked really good for a few months, and then all of a sudden, oh, we got $1 million hit, or we lost 500,000.
Yeah. Well, it's a great
David.
It's a great point. It's a great point, and it's a great segue to what my message will be in the Finance Committee, and that is, for the first 4 months, we've looked great. May not look that great. And so it's really good to have that positive variance from the first 4 months, because you're right, month to month, things do go up and down.
Getting back to initial steps, would it be to our advantage to not include the 2015 ID Bailey projection? You mentioned the 2016 ID Bailey projection that I think was worse. But what if we get a new projection, whether it's with ID Bailey or someone else, rather than present them with the 2015 projection?
I think it's actually, we're doing better than the
projection. We are doing better than the projection.
Yeah,
okay.
we're beating projection, and I think that's a good thing.
What this shows, Gene, is that we are back on track.
Well, but if we're doing better than the projection, let's get a new projection that shows that. And that may even give us a future projection even brighter. I don't see why we have to go back and quote the 2015 projection.
No, for one thing, it take a couple months to get it. That's a good point.
Well,
I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, there's cost and time. There's cost and time.
Presenting another approach, and that is, don't give them something out of 2015. These are sharp people. They want to know what's it like now. And what are your projections for the future? We don't want to hear about 2015.
Oh, I'm sure that we will have projections.
I think they will have their own projections.
They'll have their own.
They're actually going to take all the financial information and they're going to run it. I mean,
well, sure they will, but we just want to make sure we give them the best information we can.
Well, I also don't really want some other can open that I don't want to open. So at this point, let's just stick with we're doing better than projected.
We are doing better than projected, and that includes this year.
So are you suggesting to remove 2015?
No, we can't hide anything from it.
That's actually a very public document, because that was used for the issuing of the bonds.
Right. So I just don't like asking questions that I don't know the answers to.
So this again, back onto what we are doing on this step. This is the information that we're going to be providing to the potential affiliate partners, and then Steve and I will meet with them and their CFO, because, for example, in my discussion with one of the affiliate partners, I don't want to mention anybody specifically, but the comment was, we're not cost-based reimbursed here. You really understand the cost-based reimbursement better than we do. So when we go through financials, could you help us to understand what this all means? So Steve and I will sit down with their leadership, including their CFO, to go through the financials, both the 17 and the year to date.
When they're looking at potentially moving part of their administration costs, which could be huge.
It could be a real benefit.
It could be,
yes.
Yeah, they could end up with a great win-win.
So there's upside from that standpoint, and of course from being able to grow volume. So these are steps that need to be taken right now. I wanted you to understand where we are on the timeline. Why we haven't provided this information yet, because we really wanted to have you have the report from the auditors before we provide that information to a third party. And then we'll get to here, and that is proposing to them high-level deal points. So let's talk about those. So in this slide, what I have done is I've taken from the work that we've done, and I've listed out some of the really important points of affiliation that we would express to a potential affiliate partner. Now what you're seeing here is an iterative process, and what happens is that we'll have this list of deal points, but those deal points will inform underlying budgets. So think of it as a post-transaction world. What does that look like? In a post-transaction world, the district continues to operate and has a budget. The hospital and the clinics operated by a third party, our affiliate partner, if you think of it as a department or a subsidiary of that organization, it has to have its own budget, and both of those budgets need to work in order to accomplish their goals. The deal points are going to inform the budget, but then forming up a draft of the budget may make us realize that we may need to adjust some of the deal points, and so that's why there are those arrows showing it goes around. It may go around a couple times as we try to finalize and make sure that this foundation of budget works for both parties. So here are the high-level deal points. The first one is the rebranding. We believe it's really important for us in order to stop the out-migration, to grab a brand with one of these potential partners. Second part is the lease. It's most likely to be a lease arrangement where the partner is leasing and operating the hospital and the clinics. The real assets, meaning the real estate and the building, those assets remain with the district. They're tied to the revenue bond. The revenue bond is the debt as well as the LTGO bond. So the debt and the assets remain with the district. This is very similar to the model that was used for the Snohomish Hospital, Stevens Hospital, that put the deal together with Swedish. The district now rebranded themselves as Verdant. You've heard that before, but this is very similar to that structure and I've talked to the executive director of Verdant who said, yes, we're landlords of the hospital. We've gone off and done, and they really have done amazing things in their community around health and wellness. But they have a relationship with Swedish Providence now where Swedish Providence comes to them on a regular basis and provides them with a stewardship report on how they're doing with operating that asset that the district still owns. So the district needs to operate and continue to fulfill its mission, and I just, for our purposes here for you in the back, that's our mission there. Promote and improve the health and well-being of people in our community by providing quality care in a collaborative environment. That's work that will continue to be done by the district, but it needs to have a budget in order to accomplish that. The lease agreement would not just be a lease agreement, but it would include in it performance measures that both parties agree need to be met in order for the relationship to continue. And that is around customer satisfaction, net income for the hospital and clinics, and the district's ability to continue to be compliant with its bond covenants. And finally, the service scope for services provided in the community by the hospital and the clinics need to continue to meet the needs of the community and be consistent with what we find in a community health needs assessment. So these are the high-level deal points that I'm proposing that we put in front of the 3 affiliate partners as we have the discussions with them around how we're doing financially. Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think what they're going to ask is, what do you expect from us in terms of financials? Right here, assure stability of any financial commitments, etc. What are you expecting from us?
If you mean if you're affiliate partner?
The affiliate partner.
Yeah.
If you came to me with this, I'd say that's all very nice. But
I want you.
Performance measures, for instance, what happens if customer satisfaction is down? Are you going to break the lease, or what's the deal?
That's where you.
But my more important point was, what do you expect from us in terms of these financials that you're asking?
Yeah, we would expect them to make that lease payment, and to have and to maintain a favorable bond rating in order to show that they are a substantially viable organization.
Well, I think that's a given.
Yes.
But I've heard talk about how we need to add on to the building and have a surgical center, and there's some of these dreams that I think are totally impractical. But are we still entertaining that sort of thing? We
would that I would not be putting on the table right away, because what we would want is we would want them to see the advantage, not just us drive it through the lease agreement. I can't imagine any one of them not seeing the opportunity. There is, in fact, if you recall me mentioning this, when we were working with Overlake, one of the first questions that they had with us, this was 3 years ago, was, where do we put the operating room? So it is very well understood that in order to stop the out-migration, there's going to be investment in an expanded scope of services.
I'm very skeptical of that. With Swedish being 9 miles or 10 minutes away, I'm very skeptical that people will come here for surgical procedures when they can go to a 175-bed hospital currently certified for 80 beds that do a dozen of those surgeries a day.
Yeah.
You know?
It depends on what the surgery is, but
how specialized it is.
Exactly.
Yeah,
where
do you go for cancer care?
You
don't go down the block.
No, that's exactly the point. So,
and you're suggesting that we would have cancer care?
No, saying the specialty's got to be highly specific that people need. There's not.
Can you be specific? What kind of surgeries are you talking about that would be unique and specific?
No, that's.
That's up to the organization to determine.
But I think another good point that's coming from Commissioner Spikers is that highly specialized services bypass Swedish Issaquah, and a lot of highly specialized services even bypass some of the hospitals on the east side. Now they are developing more programs in order to keep more of those patients on the east side. But what we would benefit from greatly from the outset is some basic surgical capabilities, general surgery, orthopedics, in order to support the work that's done in the emergency department, and really help the community have that sense that if they do have a surgical need after visiting our ER, they could have that locally. That would serve, what we're trying to do here, and we've already done this, is serve the vast majority of the needs of the community. Our clinics are a great example of that. The vast majority of needs of the community is primary care, and we do a great job of that. But as the community grows, so grows the need to respond to some of the more specialized services that they need. And some basic surgery capability would be one of those.
What I'm looking at is they lease for the exact amount that we have on our hospital debt.
No,
3.6, whatever.
The bond, actually, they have
covenant.
the bondholder requirements.
They keep
a little bit more,
The remainder of the bonds are paid through our tax.
The LTGO.
The LTGO are paid by tax.
That's correct.
And there's a small amount in addition
It's not that small now.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
Let me finish my sentence.
Okay, I'm sorry, David.
Sure.
And there is a small amount for our administration to keep the hospital running, which is maybe 50,000 a month, whatever, 40,000 a month.
To keep the district going.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, maintenance of our East Campus and accounting, tax
Correct.
payments,
Yep.
election costs.
Yep.
Yep, there's something.
But is the East Campus included in this lease, or just the hospital
Just
itself?
the hospital and the
So
clinics.
that's separate,
Correct.
correct, okay, good.
Not on the
Still
page.
we could keep our administration there. We could.
Or build,
There's a lot of things.
Yes.
lots of things, yeah. So
Are
that would
these-
be the levy. Sorry.
Are these organizations understanding this?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
we've talked, each one of them, I've let them know that there is a continuation of the district, and the agreement that we would end up with eventually would need to support the district's continued operations.
Because I would love to have as part of our administration, someone that could write grants
Right.
for our local healthcare.
And I think, I totally agree, and this is where
We've been neglecting
Yeah.
quite a bit of our district
Yeah.
for financial reasons. We cannot help people the way we want.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that is on the table.
It is, and it's there. District operates to fulfill its mission.
Yeah.
It's right on there.
And at the end, I mean, we're looking at a 10-year lease to start out with,
Yeah,
or 5 or whatever it is,
Yeah.
but they can't own it unless they pay out for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so thank you for that point. There would be probably an initial term that would be 7 years, because that would coincide with when the revenue bonds are callable, and that would give the affiliate partner the opportunity at that point to say, well, things are going great. We have an opportunity to refinance the bonds and purchase the hospital, or we want to continue the lease. So that would be a good point in time for us to say, okay, how's that going, and do we want to restructure?
So at that time, I would think that would be termed in terms of an option
Correct.
purchase.
Correct, David.
So normally
Something like
people
that,
pay
yeah.
for that option. And so maybe the East Campus, the value of that, whatever that is in 7 years, could be split if they exercise
Well,
or something like
you
that.
may notice I'm not putting East Campus on the table here. And the reason to not put East Campus is because, as you mentioned, the lease payment would be very closely tied to the financing and the servicing of the not the financing, but the servicing of the revenue bond. If you think about what the revenue bond did, the revenue bond paid for this hospital. And so having a lease payment very closely tied to that revenue bond debt service matches up the purposes of those funds. The East Campus had nothing to do with the revenue bond, and so the district continuing to own the East Campus keeps the district having a very valuable asset that may be much more valuable into the future.
That would be ideal,
Yep.
but I just remember the last offer we got.
Yeah, well, that one is
And I
That's
remember
history.
that one is now
how
in our
that went.
that is now in our history.
That's history.
So,
Yes.
Yes.
And
oh
I'll
no, the first thing they wanted was the East Campus.
No, I know, that's.
Well, they needed assets.
Well, they,
so that's not what I'm proposing that we start out with.
The question I have is, this is maybe how we'd like to see it, but what if an affiliate potential says, okay, we want to lease it and we want to run it?
Well, they would run it.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
will be.
Okay,
They
now
will
what,
run
what
it.
does that mean for your current staff, for example?
Okay, and we're all done.
well, there goes that one.
Yeah. That's
He's actually the MC.
it's okay, because that was my last slide. But
Oh, here, we got another presentation.
Well,
Here comes the screen. The screen's coming.
Well, it all
So,
looks,
so,
we can
so,
recover, and we'll see.
I asked a question.
yeah, yeah.
Tom
So
responds.
Commissioner Pollard has the question of the operating the hospital. What implications are there for the current staff? And this is a great question because it's really the question that has been asked consistently by our staff who know that we're pursuing affiliation. The question is, what does that mean to me? So if you're one of our employees here, you may have felt some concern, and there has been some concern. And the message that we consistently provide for them is that there is no affiliate partner that we're talking to that has a pool of people waiting in the wings to come in and take your jobs. The affiliate partner wants the staff here to continue to do the work that they're doing. And so it doesn't make any sense for somebody to say, okay, we're gonna hire in and replace, because the people who are running the hospital today are the ones who know how to run the
I
hospital.
agree. What happens to our executive team?
I don't know.
But it is possible that they could come in and say, we'd like to have our own executive team since we're leasing the hospital.
That is correct.
That's pretty standard.
That's correct.
That's pretty standard. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is a possibility. And let me just, I'm going to give you my sense of it. And that is, and you know this about my background. I worked for years in multi-hospital systems. I am a believer in multi-hospital systems. I believe that we are today, notwithstanding what we get with the collaborative. The collaborative is fabulous, and we've been able to get a lot of benefit out of that. I believe there's even more benefit by being part of a network of hospitals or being in a multi-hospital system. And because I believe in that strongly, I can't worry about whether or not there's a job for Tom Parker after the affiliation is done, because I think you pay me to make decisions that are in the best interest of the hospital and the district, and so
the people
and the people of the community. So pursuing affiliation, I believe, meets that requirement that you have of me.
I appreciate that motive.
Yeah, I mean, that's what.
So again, that's my perspective on multi-hospital system. I'm a believer.
Here's the other end of it. When someone does a great job, he or she becomes marketable and for future work.
And also
And that's
within
how-
that system.
And that's how things go in real life.
Yep,
And
yeah, that's true.
so,
Okay.
and that's how it goes.
Agreed.
Are there any more?
So this is what I will be putting on the table with our potential affiliate partners when Steve and I meet to go over with them how we're doing, how we did in 17, how we're doing in 18, and here's how we would like to structure our relationship.
Yeah, just one more question.
Yeah.
You mentioned about tertiary. Is there going to be another, I think in the past when we talked about this, there was going to be another nonprofit organization that will be formed?
It may not be necessary. That would be part of the deal structure. So we may or may not have to have a separate 501c3 established. It could be just that one of the affiliate partner, that the affiliate partner is just leasing it and running it as part of their organization. So that's some work that we'll be doing with our council and their council to make sure that the structure fits the needs.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Oh,
There's another dimension, and that is, it sounds like what you're working with now is with the CFOs and the finance people of these institutions.
Actually, not yet. I've been working with the CEOs and the vice presidents for business development and strategy.
Well, I knew that was your initial contact, but what you described here.
We'll be bringing the CFOs in. And the next
Okay.
step is to bring in the
I'm
CFOs.
interested in those initial contacts and whether those are continuing to develop.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
And if you could say anything about any of those meetings or any projections of meeting with those folks.
So I've had 2 meetings, each with the leaders, that level of leadership, either the VP of business development strategy or the CEO in those 3 organizations. And the next step, and we've established this clearly, was the provision to them of those documents that I had mentioned, and then a next meeting. So we have next meetings scheduled already with those people and their CFO. We won't, Steve and I
So
won't.
after the CFO discussions and so forth, you go back to the CEO?
No, the next, I'm sorry, but the next round of discussion is with the leader and their CFO,
Oh, I
Steve
see.
and myself.
Okay.
Yep.
That's good. Do you have any time frame?
In June is when those meetings will be occurring, because we wanted to make sure you got to have the audit report before we give to them, and that's for our June board meeting. And we already have the meetings to follow with the organizations for Steve and I to go visit with them.
That's excellent. I think time is of the essence. If this drags out, they're tired of hearing it.
That's why, and they understand, by the way, they understand the timeline and that we wanted our board to have the audit report before they got those reports.
Okay, we have
Strike while the
2
iron is
minutes.
hot.
7:30 is our.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, any other, we're under other, do we have other topics to discuss? If not, we move to the next public comment, please.
Thank you. I just have a real quick question. Maybe I missed it. Is throughout this, is it just an assumption that the hospital will remain a critical access hospital? Is that up for negotiations? It will be?
That is not a negotiable.
Okay.
Not,
Both parties will want it.
yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking so, but didn't know that for sure. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Hearing none? Okay, upcoming board meetings. Our next regular business meeting is Thursday, June 14, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. Snoqualmie Valley Hospital. Our work study will be Wednesday, July 25th. We will not have a work study in June,
I'm sorry.
but we will
I'm
have,
sorry.
this is July.
I'm so sorry. My apologies.
Wednesday, we will not have a work study in June, but we will have our regular business meeting. So work study will be, the next one will be Wednesday, July 25th, 2018, Snoqualmie Valley Hospital. No meeting in June?
No work study.
No work study in June.
Okay.
Yes, that's in the.
I'll be in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Okay.